Okay, hold on. This is normally when Vic mutes me.
Oh, go ahead, Ken. I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the agenda today will be learning the math, internal and external comparatives, learn who to sell and learn what you're selling. Learn the differences between selling to new and existing subscribers, learn the ideal demo environment and why, learn how to handle the most often heard AMA objections, and learn how to add value as a consultant. Okay, so to kick it off, the first thing I want to say is a lot of the times, and I'm on the same channels as everyone else, a lot of times there's a lot of communication about where AMA stands in the whole automation ecosystem. Let me just say AMA is an extremely good value. I'm not here to be a cheerleader. I'm here to give you you guys some talking points. And the first thing is we need to learn to get out of our own way, because we often suffer this inside baseball complex where we think, you know, we know all of the warts and the pimples of our program, and therefore everyone else doesn't. They don't, okay? This is what we are looking at in the world that the general population will look at. They're looking at HubSpot, their entry-level package, $800 per month for 1,000 contacts with a $3,000 setup fee. Their first initial spend, the first year, is estimated to be $12,500. Pardot.com, $1,250 a month for their lowest package. Marketo, $895 a month for an entry-level package. Alaqua, $2,000 a month. Inbox Guru, as most people on this call are aware, Inbox Guru is the exact same program, just integrating with Infor instead of ACT. Their base package starts at $300 a month. So what we're selling, a license and AMA for $79, they're selling for $300 a month. MailChimp Pro, which has been getting a lot of press this past week, you know, that is selling for $275. Couple of key talking points. No one has actually seen the CRM. No one. I haven't seen any slides. I haven't seen anything. And if you try to include 10,000 sends, because it's important, and you'll see this same theme throughout my presentation, do not succumb to a non-apples to apples comparison. If you're going to be talking about comparable services, make sure that, you know, at least the sends are equalized so that you're providing an apples to apples comparison. Otherwise, you know, you're talking about a feature differential, a send differential, and people won't be able to compare them accurately. And plus the math works better for us as well. So if we add 10,000 sends with MailChimp Pro, which again, no one knows anything about, it's $275 a month. So you're looking at an extra $900, okay, for a lot of the features. So that's a heck of a lot more. And as I said at the beginning, I would say about half of these have fairly high onboarding fees in the neighborhood of $3,000 or higher. Okay, so that's something to be mindful of. So the next one I wanted to talk about is internal comparatives. So, you know, understanding the ACT marketing, okay, compared to the Growth Suite, because that's what you're going to be getting when you go after a lot of upgraders, a lot of the people that are existing subscribers or even perpetual customers. You've got to understand how to position this so that they can do an apples to apples. First thing, we understand the features on the AMA portion of the column here, includes outbound marketing automation, fantastic editor, drip marketing, web forms, 10,000 sends per month. That's the entry level that we'll be comparing. Then let's take a look at AEM Pro. So Active Marketing Pro comes with 2,500. I need to be muted. I've got a lot of feedback here. So whoever just entered, please mute themselves. Thank you. Okay, so AEM Pro, in order to compare it, because again, it comes with 2,500 sends per month. If you add that extra 7,500, it's $180 per year. So that equalizes it. And you look at a basic editor, only one user per account, right? So this isn't the team edition. This is one user. So unlike AMA, what applies to all users, this is one user. No outbound marketing automation, no drip marketing, no web forms, and then the 10,000 months. So what we're talking about here is $853 after the first 10% discount that's available till the end of next month versus $422. Okay. So now let's start doing some math. If we're to understand what people are starting from, we've got to get the basic comparatives down. So ACK licensing for existing self-hosting customers without any e-marketing. Now, a lot of us will know what we're looking at. We're looking at 4 users, so we're going to be our standard sweet spot. Okay, so the 4 users, the bronze loyalty for 4 users is $632. But if you're going to be talking to bronze users, be sure that you say, again, to keep that apples to apples thing, there's no support there. So you've got to add in at least $240 worth of premier support to offer some kind of comparison. I would offer something, price it any lower, but that's the minimum $5 per user per month. So that brings it up actually closer to $872. Loyalty pricing for 4 users, $936. Early adopters for 4 users, $1,163. Self-hosted subscribers for 4 users, $1,200. And then Growth Suite Pro, I just threw this in here, Growth Suite Pro, just for the 3 extra users, because remember that's different paradigm. We're looking at the pricing of only extra users, but the first one included is $900. Okay, so now let's look what it's going to be when we start adding in, okay, AEM at the $422 price range. Let's take a look at what that actually does to the cost. So bronze loyalty for 4 users is $1,294. So this is the cheapest that you can get, okay, with support and very few people, grandfathered condition. The cheapest that they're going to have, they're looking at paying $38 a month less than Growth Suite. So not $38 per user, okay, but $38 per month. The user cost is actually only $9.22 per user per month. Loyalty pricing, okay, so the loyalty pricing currently is $1,356 or $31 less per month, or as little as $7.67. Now, why I keep quoting these things is because, if you're going to be talking to people, they need to understand what their actual upcharge is going to be for them to budget it, for them to kind of psychologically get past that hump, because otherwise they're just going to look at the total sticker price. Okay, the early adopters for 4 users is only $14 a month less than the Growth Suite package, which I've listed down here, okay, for the first year. Now, that $14, we're talking about on a per user basis, okay? We're talking about, very, very little here, okay? I believe it's like, just like $1.50, okay? And then the self-hosted subscribers at 4 users are at $16.22. Now at $16.22, you're talking about $3.41 per month difference. That is, not even an issue for most people, and you're looking at 85 cents per user. So that's, if you start comparing AEM with against the Growth Suite in the first year, you're going to start to see that the math is really, really favorable. We're talking about $11 per month less, okay, given all the extra features. That should be an easy sell. Okay. The nice thing is that the case for the math gets even easier when you start talking about ACT Premium Cloud. So ACT Premium Cloud for 4 users with AEM Pro and 10,000 SENS is $2,102 per annum. Growth Suite Professional with 4 users in total on cloud is actually less. Very, very few people have understood the math on this. $1,987 in the first year with the first year discount, and then even after that sale is over, you're looking at only $2,208 on renewal. So you're actually saving $115 in the first year with Growth Suite for ACT Premium Cloud users, and they're only paying $8.83 per month more on their renewal. So that's a very, very marginal amount. Okay, So the bottom line is, despite all the chatter out there and some of us looking at certain sectors in terms of CRM only, the Growth Suite is a very, very good deal. So let's be careful not to get in our own way and start talking ourselves out of selling it. The math is there, and the math is easy to convey to both new and existing customers. Okay, so let's move on to the next section and talk about who to sell. So the first thing is, let's discuss the 3 myths. ACT Marketing Automation was expensive. No. Growth Suite was a bad deal for new and existing customers. No, I think we've done the math on that. Bigger customers are the best for Growth Suite. Okay, well, none of those are true, and let me do a quick demonstration why. Okay, when ACT Marketing Automation first came out in November, a lot of us imagined that only the bigger budget customers would be the ones who would be open to upgrading to the higher level of e-marketing. Simple reason is AMA represented a smaller percentage of their overall spend, and therefore it was more likely to be in their budget to the smaller compared to the smaller accounts. So that was our initial sense for AMA before it changed to Growth Suite as to who would be our low-hanging fruit. Growth Suite flipped that around completely, okay, and changed that completely. The free bundled license and improved support, okay, changed that market, and suddenly our smallest customers became our best prospects and our lowest hanging fruit. And let me explain this. So here we are. We're looking at a single customer. So a single customer on ACT Premium Cloud, okay, with e-marketing at 10,000 cents. Their first year is $842. Growth Suite with the 10% discount in the first year, all the same conditions, okay, $853. So if you're looking at where to start your targeting, go after the singles. These people are the best low-hanging fruit, and you can actually do the math really, really easily. And feel free to use this graphic. It's on our website. We haven't put any kind of keystroke branding on it, so you can use it yourself. And you can see for at least the rest of June that the cost differential is virtually the same, okay, at $11. Okay, so I'm going to follow up a little bit on what we did or what was covered yesterday by Adam, okay, and understanding the difference between selling new and existing, new customers versus existing. So the first one is prorated versus full term, okay. The first detail, and forgive me, some of this is review that watched Adam's presentation yesterday, but the first detail is ACT Marketing Automation is no longer available to buy by itself anymore. Okay, you can't add it on, and based on what they've done, for most cases the math wouldn't make sense. Okay, as of May 1st, AMA can only be bundled as part of the Growth Suite and sold to new customers or new or existing customers that way. In the case of existing customers, subscribers buying Growth Suite, their old subscription contract gets replaced by either a prorated Growth Suite contract, and I'll get to that later, or a full-term Growth Suite contract. In either case, and this is very important, the old contract gets replaced, meaning any loyalty rates, any perpetual license privileges are forfeit. Okay. Now, this has been a very, very touchy subject. The whole idea or notion of forfeiting, some of the loyalty benefits. But I wanted to pause and just address that directly. So, from a math perspective, we've already made the case that Growth Suite is a good value for most loyalty and early adopters customers. So we don't need to sell people on the math. The big 800-pound gorilla in the room is the perpetual license, and them having to forfeit that. So the first explained technically that it is a replacement contract, so all pre-existing loyalty benefits are gone. But from a perpetual license standpoint, you need to be honest with the customer about this, so there are no surprises. We've had one case where, even though we put it in writing, the customer came back later and said they didn't understand that. So we've done everything we can to explain it, but I'm suggesting that you deal with it head on and you position it thusly. So most of our current subscribers that have a perpetual entitlement, and it may be different from reseller to reseller, but most of them got their perpetual licensing as business care subscribers that migrated over and have had it for 4 or more years without using it. So let's pause for a second and think about this. If they're looking at stepping up to a higher level of engagement with SwiftPage and with GrowSuite, redeeming their perpetual license honestly doesn't seem like an imminent concern for them. Okay, or at least it shouldn't be anymore. These are people that if they valued it so much, and even though they didn't pay extra for it, they valued it so much, you know, it's been a legacy benefit that they've had for 4 to 5 years that so far has gone unredeemed. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point is with each and every passing version, and that's been true with 21, it will be true for 22, we've seen a deeper and deeper penetration of features centered around the web API, features that are, you know, increasingly integrated to the XCRM, like Insights, like ActConnect, like dynamic dashboards. And from what I've seen of the roadmap items for V22, that's going to be even more so. So, you know, we're looking at a case where people's experience, customers' experience with the ACT program is going to change significantly if they perp out. So one, talk to them about, you know, how long they've had this particular benefit and not redeemed it. And two, talk about how the developmental roadmap, how, you know, all the benefits are going to be centered around features that are limited to subscription. Okay. Now, if all of those things are true, okay, if they redeem their perpetual license still, okay, odds are, and let's speak frankly, it's not to continue using it outside of subscription, because as we already discussed, it's going to become a significantly reduced experience based on all the features being stripped away from the absence of the API. But rather to keep ACT around as a reference tool when they migrate to another CRM. Okay, my experience is people, especially the bronze users, anyone that forfeits their bronze benefits and aren't going to, like, you know, something like GrowSuite, those people are leaving, because if you're forfeiting those kinds of savings, they are not trying to ride it out, because they've already got savings that are equivalent to, you know, 2 years of regular subscription. Okay, so let's speak candidly. If those people are going to be redeeming their perpetual license, they're going to another CRM product. If that's the case, they don't need 10 licenses, 5 licenses, whatever number of users they've got. They only need to repurchase a single license, not all of them, because they're just going to keep it around for reference purposes. They're not going to have people logging it into it every day. They're going to have probably one person looking up notes and such, okay, just from a historical reference standpoint. So in that case, why would they, you know, forfeit all the potential savings and all the features of GrowSuite if they're only holding on to something that at some indeterminate point in the future might be worth as much as $750 to them? Okay, that should not be a big enough impediment to keep people from taking advantage of something that could significantly grow their business. Okay, and again, this is at some indeterminate point in the future that may possibly never happen. Okay, now if we're going to be honest about that, let's look at the flip side of it. Okay, the real high-hanging fruit. For those customers that have actually purchased over the last couple of years, they've gone to the trouble of, you know, spending the money for perpetual license so that they can have that option. Okay, over the last couple of years, don't worry about convincing them to upgrade to GrowSuite. They spent the extra money, okay, to purchase an early exit from subscription and are unlikely to double down on subscription now, regardless of the sales pitch. So don't overcommit to trying to sell them. Don't come up with different rationales. Those people are pretty high-hanging fruit, and they're going to be a low percentage sale. So make the pitch if you like, but be prepared to accept no for an answer and move on quickly. Okay? So with that, I want to get back to the contract replacements and kind of understand some of the implications there. So some existing subscribers may wish to keep their current renewal date, okay? And we all know the reasons. It could be based on annual budget cycle, seasonal spikes in revenue, whatever the case, okay? In those people's cases, their renewal GrowSuite contract can be prorated to the end of their existing term, and they will receive a credit for the unused portion of that old contract. Okay, the nice part about this approach, okay, if you're just thinking about sales success percentage, the nice part of this approach is that once you net out the cost of the new contract with the credit from the old contract, the the customer can look at a very, very small upgrade cost, so a very low barrier to entry, which makes obviously a much easier sale, because when you're dealing with a prorated renewal, it becomes a very, very small net cost. However, in cases where the renewal date doesn't matter, and from now until the end of June, definitely focus on that. We recommend that as long as the first year promo is in effect, that they replace their old contract with a new full year Grow Suite contract, which will also include a credit for the unused portion of their old contract. Okay, so again, we're talking about people that are on some level of loyalty, paying up to $300 a year for all of their users. Okay, these people, when they replace their contract, they're going to have the initial Grow Suite amount based on whichever tier they step in at, and then all additional users will be at either the discounted amount of $270, okay, or whatever their percentage is, because it's 10% for professional, 15% for premier, and 20% for ultimate. But let's say for easy math, we're talking about professional. They'll be stepping in at $270, and then their renewal price will be $300. Okay, so that's important to remember, because I know there was some misunderstanding on that. The renewal price isn't jumping up to above $300. It's going to be $300. So they're not looking at being taken into a whole new pricing tier on renewal. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, the next one, and if we're talking about low-hanging fruit, this is the easiest one. So AMA came out in November, and we've sold a fair bit. I think in the first quarter, we sold over 40 subscriptions of AMA. As they renew, those are going to be the easiest ones that you have. And except in rare bronze loyalty cases where you can't sell them on the benefits of support, transitioning from AMA to Grow Suite is going to be a breeze. You know, these people, you want to renew them on Grow Suite because let's say that they paid, you know, $800 or sorry, not $800, $948 for the first year. Now that same price is going to include an ACT license. So there's going to be very few cases where that where the extra licenses are going to be so much more expensive than to offset the savings of close to $300 initially. So the nice thing is that as they transition from AMA to Grow Suite, all of the entitlements are linked to the license key, and the license key will carry over from the old contract to the new contract, even if it's from AMA to Grow Suite. So that transition should be seamless. If you have any questions on that, I would encourage you to talk to your CSE, but that's what they've reassured us, okay, that those transitions are fairly straightforward. Okay, the net new Grow Suite customers versus those upgrading from an existing subscription. Okay, so the last point I want everyone to consider is the difference between you know, net new customers and those we're upgrading. Existing subscribers have the following perks over net new customers. Those that are currently self-hosting or with an ACT hosting provider can continue to purchase additional licenses at the old $300 self-hosting rate. And I want you to remember that term, self-hosting rate. This does not apply to existing customers who are already on ACT Premium Cloud. Okay, there's no loyalty price for them. They are paying $420 today, they'll pay $420 tomorrow. Okay, new customers, on the other hand, are not entitled to what I call a self-hosting discount. Okay, and get used to using that term, self-hosting discount, because it becomes very important later. Okay, they're not entitled to a self-hosting discount and must pay the $420 per user per year for all the additional seats. Now, positioning it as a self-hosting discount shifts the real value from $300 to $420. Okay, and I know this is going to seem like a shell game, but when you position it like that, it becomes a much more positive expression, because it changes it from, you know, it's less about, you know, new customer being charged more than it is about them being unentitled to a grandfathered discount. So if you can say to someone coming in, the real value is $420, oh, you're not entitled to the $300 because that's just for loyalty. We have been talking about loyalty benefits since, you know, May 5th, 2015. So that should be well within our vernacular. okay, and our ability to explain. But if we talk about, aren't you guys chumps? You're getting paid, charged $120 more. It becomes very negative, and no one's going to sell successfully while they're on their heels. So always use it refer to it as a legacy entitlement and a self-hosting discount. Okay. Point number 3, existing subscribers have 2 renewal options spelled out, which I spelled out previously, and the final benefit is getting credit for their unused portion of their previous contract. Okay, so the next one I wanted to talk about is what to sell, and I do apologize. There's a lot to cover. We're already at the halfway point, and we still got quite a bit more, and we're going to be opening up to questions as well. But the first thing I want to talk about is positioning. I've seen many questions on many of the different channels for people that are struggling, really trying to understand where the line, where the benefits of one tier ends and the next one begins. And once they kind of go through a long list of features, it actually ends up, they're confusing the customers, and it should be a very, very quick elevator pitch answer. So, how can we boil it down very, very quickly? Okay, so the first tier is Grow Suite Professional, previously AMA Select. Okay, the Select tier is very simple, perfect for design, delivery, forms, and reports. If you're coming from another e-marketing platform like SwiftPage e-marketing or like AEM and want to continue doing the same type of emailing with better design and delivery tools, Select is a perfect choice. And that will be, for a lot of AEMs, what you talk about, because that's going to be their frame of reference. They're going to understand delivery. They're going to understand the editor. They may have, some recollections of some of the pain in each one of those areas, but we're going to be able to offer them a much greater upgraded solution, okay? Plus, with many more sends per month. Now, Select is perfect for designing business newsletters and sending out to 10,000 emails per month with normal delivery, or even with some additional delivery workflow after the newsletter is sent. What this means is you can trigger additional emails to be sent based on how the recipients respond to the first one. For instance, you can trigger a follow-up email if they open the newsletter, or resend the first one with some slight modifications if they don't. It's a new level of e-marketing interaction that should be easy to talk people up to, because previously they just understand sends, spray and pray. Okay, Select users can build sample landing pages to capture basic data with web forms as well. Now, everyone should be aware that as of the introduction of Grow Suite, there is a new marketing calendar feature. Okay, it's a very, very easy thing to communicate. Marketing calendar is really powerful. It's exactly what you think it is. You can look at a calendar from a daily, a weekly, or a monthly view. You can filter it by users, and you can see all past campaigns, okay, from a calendar view, as well as scheduled campaigns. So that's a good selling point, and certainly talk up the constant evolution of the offerings, okay? The next one is Grow Suite Premier, okay? So Grow Suite Premier, previously known as AMA Complete, and while it has all of the outbound, what I characterize as outbound delivery workflow. So the first one, Professional, had outbound delivery workflow. It's important to understand that only Complete and Advanced tiers, or what we're now calling Premier and Ultimate, have what's called inbound workflow into Act. What does inbound workflow mean? Well, the Select tier cannot process, okay, the responses from a campaign to create tasks inside of Act, like adding new or existing contacts to campaigns, alerting sales staff based on click-through responses, or even creating follow-up activities or opportunities based on how a recipient reacts to a campaign. So the first tier is great for sending, and it's going to be very similar to what they're used to. But now you can introduce a whole new level of complexity where, say you want this to really be intelligent. You want this to flow, all the results and all the customer engagement to flow back into Act. Then that's where the Premier features kick in. Okay. Now, the reason that Premier has its name is because all Premier, all subscribers as part of a Grow Suite account of Premier also get Premier support, not just the first one, but all of them. So, just basically multiply $60 by every single user, because the upgrade cost is typically $5 a month, okay? Then they will get that value for each and every single one of their users, okay? So to repeat, the simplest way to understand the differences between Select and Complete is the former supports outbound delivery workflow, and the latter supports that and inbound response-driven workflow. Okay, so if you keep it that simple, then you're not dealing with a mile-long comparison chart, and people can understand for themselves what the value is. Okay, so if you, I'll show you the comparison chart that we've got on our website at the end of this, but you'll notice that most of the differences between the first and the second tier follow along the lines of inbound versus outbound. Okay. Now, it should be noted that Complete also has another 40,000 sends per month for a total of 50,000, and a more robust web forms and landing pages that support many more different types of data fields, okay, like checkboxes, for example, that allow users to present a much more meaningful survey to their audience than Select supports, I should say. Growth Suite also just added 2 more big selling points, namely the advanced editor. So the advanced editor previously that was in the top tier is now available in the middle tier, that supports sales templates, and I'll get back to that subject later, HTML importing and coding, as well as the new asset manager. The asset manager is only lightly been touched on because it came out initially and then was withdrawn, tweaked, and introduced back. The first part probably won't, put a twinkle in many people's eye, because if they don't understand what the advanced HTML editor is, it's obviously not going to be a big driving point. But sell it as something that can import their existing templates, which is a big pain point for a lot of people. You can use this to import existing templates, third-party HTML files that are created. You can use that for importing and then provide additional coding. But the asset manager is extremely useful, and the simplest way to convey the benefits of that is if they have any kind of digital assets, whether it be a PDF, something that they've published, a video that they've recorded, and they want to promote that, okay, but control the viewing in a way to harvest information and opt-ins and signups, then they can actually use the asset manager to control the release of those assets while harvesting that viewer information. So that is a really, really cool. So just ask them if they have anything like that. Do you have any internal publications? Do you have any product videos that you would like to tease people with while harvesting some signups? That's a terrific tool. You can find that that's a really good leverage point as well. Now, the ultimate actually is something that that I have a very, very simple attitude on. Certainly talk up the benefits of it. You can talk about and again, much like Premier, the naming of the convention, the naming convention was based on the support tiers. So all the users within an ultimate package, they will get $120 worth of upgraded support. And this is formally the advanced tier of AMA. Now, what I like to tell people is those that need advanced features like A/B testing and multi-stage lead profiling, they already know it. Okay, they already know what they are and they understand the benefits of it. These are sophisticated marketing tools, and if a user is qualified to use them, they likely already know the value well enough to justify the cost. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to become an expert in it. You don't need to implement it. If they're interested in it, they will buy it, and you just need to tell them what's in it. Okay. The only other reason a user would justify the extra cost of the advanced tier is based on the increased send limit, which in this case is an extra 50,000 for a total of 100,000 per month. So either the customer will take you to the ultimate level, okay, or the sends will. Either way, you don't have to pretend to be, a high-level marketing expert. One of those two drivers will take them there. Okay. So I'm going to pause for a moment and open it up to questions before we get into the ultimate. Let's do 5 minutes of questions. Vic?
All right, there's no questions in the...
Okay, I'm happy to. I just want to pause because I've been talking for about 37 minutes, so I want to give people an opportunity so they don't have to, put a push pin in something for the full hour. Okay, so
if you do have a question you want to ask, you can unmute yourselves and ask it that way, or put in the questions.
I would prefer to just put it in the, just so it doesn't become too interrupted.
Okay. Yep.
Just put it in the chat channel, and I'll pause again later for questions, and we'll get to them in queue. Okay. Now, here's something that I can tell you we learned the hard way. Certainly in the early days back in November when we introduced AMA, and all the way through a lot of February, where up until update 5. It was difficult. It was challenging to create a reliable demo environment. Okay, we've got a very, very simple attitude now. Do not rely on the Windows client to demo ANA. Use a verified cloud account with either SwiftPage, RTG, Tech Commandos. The Windows client can often require a restart or be subject to unrelated plugin issues. Always demo in a cloud environment because it has two benefits. One, it's a more trouble-free environment. A lot of people, like myself, they'll leave their Act open for days. Okay, AMA can't remain logged in for that, so there's no logout required in, unlike in Windows, there's no login required for web. And the auth keys expire and can force a re-authentication. So you can literally be ready to start a webinar or a training presentation or a sales pitch, and suddenly have to stop, close Act, restart it. That's a bit clunky. Okay, you want it to be seamless. The web does, because it requires a login, this expired authentication key is not an issue. That's the first point. The second point, even though it's less technical, is actually something that you'll find will give you much more relief post-purchase. If you sell them, okay, based on the web client, you will find that it's much easier to provision post-purchase. The Windows client might require tweaking. It might require running the streamer batch file. It might require unifying the updates that everyone's on, causing deployment delays, frustrations. And when people are paying a lot more, they're not as patient to start their onboarding process. They want to get going right away, okay? Whereas the web access, if you deploy them on a reliable hoster, any of the three that we discussed, okay, they can start working with AMA pretty much immediately. And the nice thing is that would be consistent with the way you demoed it. So if they say, okay, I showed you on the web, but now you're working on Windows and it's frustrating, you can go back to them and say, yes, but there was a reason I showed you on the web. There's all kinds of different things that can happen that can trip up the Windows experience, where the web experience is much more reliable. I was just advised today that this latest release of 21.1 Update 2 has the same issue with 21.1 Update 5, where you have to be at a minimum level of update to avoid the streamer issue. Okay, so again, use a reliable hosting provider, use one of these three, and do the demo within the web experience. Okay, now let's go through what are some of the most common objections that people have. Okay, now I've asked a lot of people. I've gone to SwiftPage, I've gone to different consultants and things like that to try to compile these lists, and these seem to be the ones that come up most often. So the first one is the lack of, and I haven't ordered these in order of priority or urgency or angst. I've just ordered them as they came in. So the first one is the lack of boilerplate templates. And again, this is more about what people kind of learn to experience with AEM. But they need to understand that the drag and drop editor, okay, because the AEM, you would go in, you can pick and choose different newsletter formats, things like that, and just start entering in text and graphics. But the drag and drop editor is so simple to customize to the users, even new users. Templates are really not needed in the same way. And if anyone is doubting that, just compare the ease, flexibility, and power of the two editors, the one with AEM and the one with AMA, and you'll quickly discover that actually is the case. The other reason is that similar to WordPress or Joomla content management systems, and when I first saw these, the AMA being demonstrated, the first thing that came to me is that the drag and drop editor is very similar to those two types of content management systems. I use Joomla a lot, and I found that the editor was almost identical to it in a lot of ways, and I found that AMA, actually, the editor, was even more powerful. If you think of it in those terms and you convey it in those terms, in terms of ease of use, people can understand that those typically do not come with demo websites. Okay, so you're not going to sign up for a new website and say, oh, okay, great, I've got a Joomla content management system. Let me, pick some kind of website template off the shelf. Those are typically third party, and they come at a cost. Okay, so that's the first 2 points to deal with the lack of boilerplate templates. The second one was, this was a bit of education issue, and I think we've made some inroads with this. Too many steps to launch a campaign compared to previous versions. In previous versions, you would just do set it up and say send, and, you were done. However, now there is a fast track option. A lot of the education, a lot of the training that the channel went through, walked them through the 15 or 16 steps to set up a campaign and how to launch it that way. Some of you guys will be aware, some of you won't be, but if you go into a template, from within the template, you click on Actions, Create Campaign, and you're on your way. There may be maybe 3 or more clicks than there used to be with AEM. Okay, it's a very, very simple process. Okay. So moving on to that, the lack of AEM call list. This is probably going to take the most explaining, because it really requires a conceptual shift. Okay. Firstly, previous email services integrated with ACT had no automated engagement with them. So call lists were the only manual alternative. You wanted to know who to follow up with. You wanted to see what the responses were. You had to look them up and then, follow through with them. Okay. Start thinking past that initial engagement and using something like I discussed with the inbound workflow, and using Premier, formerly Complete, service to actually harvest the follow-ups within ACT. So instead of pivoting to your call list, create groups that are based on user lists and watch them, or user responses, and watch them populate. Create opportunities based on user responses. Create campaign inclusions based on that. So you're not pivoting to call lists like you used to. You're actually going to your ACT data, or you're going to your calendar, you're going to your follow-ups, or you're going to your opportunities, and you're going to see the results, but translated in terms of follow-up activities. Okay. Secondly, the campaign dashboard does provide a lot of click-through details to satisfy the curiosity of most users, as well as scoring. Okay. As I said, this is not going to be a technical webinar, so I'm not going to go through all the different features of this, but there is most of us has had a chance to play around with it. You can get a lot of results from that. And even if you want to, look past the dashboard and its UI, you can export from the campaign results very, very easily to sort and extract in Excel. Now, we have a free utility called Multi-Search that makes this process very easy. I'm just going to stop and do a quick demonstration. So let's say we get a spreadsheet like this. Okay, and I highlight everyone here, copy, and I go into our database and I click on lookup and I click on multi-search. Okay, I'm now going to paste these in and go. Boom. So now you've got all 25. So if you're working from a spreadsheet, you can very easily sort based on responses, whether they're bounces, their complaints, their click-throughs, their opens, whichever, and you can do very, very quick lookups that way. So this tool, I'll show you at the end of the presentation, is free to anyone that wants to download. It's part of the Keystroke Welcome Kit. I'll give you some tips on how to distribute that, but that's an easy free tool that you can pass on to your customers. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay. The next one is lack of Outlook-like follow-ups in outbound workflow. So what do I mean by that? I don't know about you, but I get daily emails from people that says, just following up, sent you an email. Most of these people are trying to sell me lists, but they are in a fairly familiar customized follow-up format that almost makes you think that they are in fact calling up a genuine person-to-person email. Okay, and that's obviously the point of automation, to have that level of engagement that is kind of extended beyond what you're personally involved with. Okay, but there's nothing really right now outside of the HTML editor, which is now in Premier only, and previously, as of last month, in the advanced, that really provides for that. Okay, so if you go in and you try to use the sales templates, which can be used just in strictly text, the sales templates are not available in the professional tier. Now, again, what I'm about to tell you is not official, and nothing is official until it comes out, but I have heard that SwiftPage is working to change this particular inclusion in the next month or so. Okay, so no promises, but this is what I've heard that they're working on. And when you think about the sales templates being included in Pro, it's also consistent with the same kind of guidelines discussed earlier in terms of outbound versus inbound workflow, separating the first two tiers. So I think we've got we should have some good news in the next couple of months on that front, and then you'll be able to convey that to customers. Okay, I'd like to move to AMA. If I could take my AEM or SPM templates with me. Now, I see this almost every single week on the different forums, people complaining that they've got years and years of templates that they want to migrate over, okay? I have several points to that. Firstly, most of the old templates were not built in a responsive way. So any of us that were sending out emails in the past, we know that they didn't work particularly well on mobile, and they were not mobile friendly. All AMA templates made with the drag and drop editor are mobile friendly, okay? And the drag and drop editor is not designed to first convert templates, but also convert them to mobile friendly, okay? That's not how it's designed. The content management or the content management type editor, the drag and drop editor, is designed the way it is so that it can stack items in a mobile friendly way, so that isn't subject to conversion, okay? That's the first point. Second point, very few drag and drop templates migrate to other solutions. Okay, imagine, returning to the WordPress example, WordPress websites do not migrate to Joomla. Top-line designer layouts do not migrate to Premium Plus. Act word processor templates do not migrate to Word. So control the expectations on that migrations are not a barrier to entry. Okay, with the drag and drop editor that is that easy to use, they should be able to reproduce them fairly easily. And then the third point, I think, is the most obvious. If you're clinging that much to your templates so that you can reuse them, odds are you're reducing your readability of your contents if you're just recycling the same templates over and over again. Give them a fresh new look, incorporate some of the same content, export them out through simple emails and things like that. And you can scrape whatever text you want from them and paste them into the new mobile friendly format with the drag and drop editor. Okay. Now, the next point I wanted to cover was seasonal. I've heard this a lot where, seasonal versus annual cost. AMA, Growth Suite, all of these things, they like to, that they require an annual prepayment, okay? Whereas other solutions allowed you, I believe SPEM allowed you to go, and third-party solutions allow you to go seasonal or month to month, okay, as you need them. We understand people would like to pay for only the months that they need to advertise, specifically seasonal type businesses like landscapers, like tax planners, and the like. But there are two things to consider here. Okay, because we're past the delivery business. Okay, we are now into marketing automation. Nurture campaigns should be run year round, not simply when the sun shines. Okay, as this will help create more early bookings and longer wait lists for your services. So if you're a landscaper and you're only campaigning when the sun shines, then you are limiting your market dramatically, and you'll end up having deeper valleys and shorter peaks, okay? AMA is not, and the second point is, AMA is not about email sends anymore. It's about user engagement, and that level of engagement cannot be scheduled. You can send an email that may not be looked at for several months. It happens all the time. I get replies to emails that I've sent years ago, but suddenly a workflow is triggered well past the original delivery date. Limiting a subscription, okay, to a small window, okay, defeats the purpose of what Act Marketing Automation is all about, okay? This isn't just spray and pray. This isn't, about when it was sent, but it's the overall customer engagement period, and that's something that we can't control, nor can we confine it within a narrow 2, 3, 4 month subscription period. So we have to explain that as part of an education process that we have with the end users, because they're going to have a send mindset, an e-marketing mindset, until we teach them that this is a different animal, okay? The last one is internal integration with Act versus external solutions with limited Act integration, okay? Simple message I have, don't forfeit our home field advantage. Act integration is key to most users. And while they may stray to review, different third-party solutions, because there's a ton of great solutions out there with different features, be sure to bring them back to the subject of integration and how tightly AMA and Acts are tied, and how they're, you can have all of these different features and histories and campaign results tied within Act that you don't have to, harvest from outside of the program. Okay. So I'm going to pause at this point and go see if there's any questions before we go into the value adds.
We have a few questions. What do you say to SBEM users? Pricing is markedly different.
Well, the pricing is markedly different, but a lot of the conditions are the same. You're still looking at roughly $25 or $20 to $25 per user. You're still looking at heavy upcharges for additional sends, all of that. And, I'm like a lot of you guys. I suffered through using SBEM for years, and it became the dog whose fleas I knew. Okay, so I got better and better at working around all the limitations. Okay, but the things, most of the emails now are consumed in mobile. That wasn't a solution. Trying to import in from other HTMLs was a disaster with them. Okay, we need to start explaining that when you take the cost of the base subscription, the fact that it only was supported by one user, and you add the extra sends that are included with the professional tier, you're going to find that the cost difference is a lot less than what you would initially imagine. And then once you establish what that delta is in cost, start talking about what they would be giving up by trying to save that money. Okay, that's a much more powerful message than trying to upsell. Say, do you really want to keep slugging away with, a dog with, just because the fleas? Or do you really want to be able to, produce something in a fraction of the time that's mobile friendly, that looks dramatically better, that's going to have much wider appeal? Okay, just to save $16 a month, $10 a month. That becomes a very, very easy sell to make. But you've got to do what I first said, and you've got to establish the apples to apples. Equalize the sends, okay? Equalize as much as you can, and then establish that baseline, and then talk about what they'd be giving up by not going to it. Okay, good question. Next.
Thank you. Next question. For Premier, can a customer buy additional blocks of sends, or do they have to move to Ultimate?
Yes, they can buy sends, and I'm going to cover that in my chart. All three tiers, believe it or not, even the one with 100,000, provide the option to upgrade by 2,500 sends.
All right.
So, you can buy them in blocks of 2,500. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, next question. Multi-search is the same as free exponential email lookup tool. Is that correct?
Might be. I don't know. Giles is a great programmer. He develops a ton of different tools. We're giving it away free, so, please use whatever works best for you.
All right.
But it's not the same. Greg Ferber was the one that developed this one.
Okay, next question. Do you have a list of advanced landing pages / surveys features included in the Premier tier?
I will show you what we have at the end of this presentation, and then you can drill down as well as some additional resources, okay? I want to kind of stray away from that. I don't want to, cast myself as a technical expert on a lot of these, but you can certainly, steer your customer towards some of these free resources so they can discover, some of the answers to those questions themselves.
All right, there's one more question, but we'll answer that one offline. It's a more complicated scenario. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah, move on. Thank you.
Okay, so the next big thing I wanted to talk to people about, and it's really, really easy to kind of, say, we've all got stretch goals. We all want to hit that magical $75,000. We want to maintain our channel partner status. Okay, but at the end of the day, we also want to improve the customer experience. We want to deliver a solution that is really valuable to them, and we want to increase our engagement with them. Okay, and that can only be done by providing a good quality service. And what that means is that you're providing them good advice, both pre-sale and post-sale. Okay, and there's a lot of landmines that people need to understand, and it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to consult them accordingly, because sometimes if you give the information late, it can be really, really bad. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, delivery. Okay. And when I say delivering added value through delivery, I am not talking about provisioning. I'm not talking about running the streamer batch file, applying, uniform updates or anything like that. That's a whole different subject. What I'm talking about is, offering insights on how to improve their chances and things that they need to know to maximize their deliverability. So the first two myths that I want to, dispel, and you can even convey it to them, is because most of the customers will believe, yes, I have a well-scrubbed list. And even if that isn't true, some delivering is better than none. So what's the harm, right? Again, back to that spray and pray mentality. Truth is, neither is true. Okay, and launching into AMA with an unscrubbed list can lead to some very disastrous results, and from what I've seen, consequences that very few people know. Okay, so the SwiftPage deliverability team has confirmed that a bounce rate of 5% or more, 5% or more, will trigger a call or email from their team. Okay, and if the customer ignores that intervention and persists with the same list and the same bounce rate, SwiftPage or their ISP could terminate their account. And here's the key: without a refund. That's correct. They could forfeit between $1,000 and $5,000 in AMA costs without a remedy if they ignore, if they continue to persist on that outdated mentality that their list must be scrubbed, and if it isn't, who really cares? Okay, so what can you do? So the first thing is, if you've got someone and they're in the pre-purchase stage and you're trying to educate them, the first thing is, do not take an order for GrowSuite without finding out first if they have either an SPEM or an AEM account. Why? Because if you get the name of their account, you'll need their actual account name. Okay, SwiftPage will be able to import over their previous suppression list. That will be the first step in minimizing, excessive bounces or deliverability issues. So that's the first thing. So they don't have to, have their list and all the limitations of it relearned by AMA. Let some of the benefits of the historical lessons carry forward. Secondly, if they've used a third-party e-marketing service previously, ask them to check it if they have the ability to export their suppression list in some kind of flat format like a CSV, TXT, or Excel, because those can be imported into AMA, again saving them some time. Thirdly, ask them honestly if they've ever implemented any kind of opt-in program previously. I'm not talking about a web form which passively adds approved recipients one at a time from their website. Those are really easy. Those are people overtly signing up. But I'm talking about an active campaign to harvest permissions from all of their contacts. If not, tell them to complete one of two steps. Okay, they have to complete both of these steps. The first thing is introduce them to a service like Bright Verify. Okay, you can see it at the bottom here, brightverify.com. That can authenticate their contacts' emails. Keystroke is building an integration for this service, and it should be done this week, that will allow people to verify their all of their database emails, okay, passively and quickly, at a cost of 1 cent per verification. That's the Bright Verify cost. So, we have 130,000 emails in our database. Once we complete it, we're going to be running it. I'm looking at a worst case scenario of $1,300. $1,300 to scrub a list of 130,000. Think of what the alternative labor cost would be. Okay, so that's nothing. Considering that most people's email lists will be a fraction of that, some people will be looking at anywhere from, $10 to $100 to scrub their list. So be sure to advise them of that. They're going to appreciate that referral. And obviously, when the integration, we expect to introduce that next week. That will save them time. Okay, the next one, okay, everyone knows that, we are Craven capitalists here, so there is going to be an inevitable shameless plug. So the opt-in manager, which is something that we've been running since 2014, allows you to harvest thousands of email permissions, so consent permissions at a time, very, very quickly, okay? Now, previously, this has been something that has been limited to the people using Windows clients because it was developed through the SDK. what I'm about to announce for the first time is that as of this week, we are going into beta with a web API version. So you will be able to run the opt-in manager, okay, and harvest permissions from a web database. Okay, that's very new. Expect to hear more about that next week. I don't want this to turn into an infomercial, so I'm just going to put those out there as resources that you can introduce your customers to. Okay, now, it is also important to understand that AMA does have a similar type feature that where you can send an email with a link to a web form that is personalized that will, update a field or update a suppression list. However, SwiftPage does not want you to use that because you are essentially using their service to scrub an unscrub list. So the folly of that should be self-explanatory. You want to use a service outside of AMA to scrub your list. And when I was talking to Chad last week, even he agreed, yeah, that's a bad practice. We don't want to use AMA for scrubbing purposes and sending it forth into the unscrubbed. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then the advise them of MX Toolbox, okay? MX Toolbox, a lot of us have already heard of, is a free resource. So they can look up IP addresses or mail server host names to investigate why emails bounce. So if they get bounce backs from emails that they're fairly certain have been verified, it could be that those mail servers are on blacklists. And by going to MX Toolbox, they can look up either the host name or the IP address of the mail server that's related to that and determine whether or not there is an issue with that mail server. Another one, similar to Bright Verify, is a service called centralops.net. Centralops.net, and they can use it again to further verify bounced emails. Okay, so those are services, those are tips that you can give people, on a pre-purchase basis that's going to increase your engagement with them, and they're not going to hear that anywhere else. There's no document covering all these different third-party services and, free or otherwise, and the customer will be indebted to you as a gateway for those resources, okay? So the next thing is in terms of ways that you can influence the customer from a consulting perspective, in order to properly manage the results from your customers' campaigns, you should suggest some fields be immediately added to their database, okay? Things like permissions fields, opt-in, opt-outs, okay? Opt-in dates, opt-out dates. Now, why would you want both? Okay, well, on a campaign-to-campaign basis, you may have people that opted out at one point and opted back in at another. And you may need to verify the chronology of that, and having an opt-out date from one field and an opt-in date from another is going to provide easy verifications. Bounced fields, okay, using that same multi-search tool, you can do a quick export and look up all of the bounced and then update them with a checkbox so that you can use that. I'll explain that later. Complaints as well, same kind of checkbox. Last opened is a date field tracking the activeness of the recipient. Really useful for spam traps where, you've got something that is showing yes, it's delivered, but they're never ever opening it. You can use groups to segregate a lot of people, a lot of email addresses that are confirmed delivery but never opened. If that's the case, then you are going to be able to shortlist the people that are most likely email addresses that are most likely spam traps. Okay, last activity. Last activity is a character type, so you want to track whether or not there was a click-through, there was an open, delivery, that kind of thing. And then the final field is a scoring. Now, I spoke with Andy Wood about this. It doesn't matter. It could be either a character or a numeric field. Just don't use a decimal, and I'll explain the benefit of that. So the scoring field is a very important to create at the beginning. Okay, right at the beginning as they're using it, and then not just create the field, but map the field accordingly, because it will not capture send results or campaign results retroactively. It will only capture the campaign results on a go-forward basis. So if they discover the benefits of the scoring field 4 or 5 months down the road, and they're looking for results that aren't available to them, they're going to look back at their consultant and say, why didn't you tell me about this? As opposed to them looking back at a wealth of data and being grateful. Okay, so the process is simple. Go to the admin page, click on map to field, and map to that field. Okay, this will allow you to create default scoring campaigns for like the last 90 days and write a value to that new score automatically. Okay, this field can then be added to a contact list view so that you can actually see the results of the scoring at a glance for all the different contacts. Okay. Now, the next thing is there's a Mac Consultant Alive that can consult on the subject of groups. Obviously, groups are a very, very powerful part of any of the marketing solutions because they represent your segmentation and controlling which people will populate it and which people won't. So when you have these fields in here, you will be able, to use these fields to teach them the power of groups so they can properly include and exclude people from these marketing groups. So for instance, if I've populated all the people that have bounced or complained and I put that as a condition of do not include, then those people will automatically depopulate and again increase my delivery rate and reduce my bounce rate. You'll also be able to check for the last 6 months activities. So things like based on the last opened, last activities, you can create a group that puts together or collects, information on that, as well as excluding bounces and complaints and etc. So definitely take the opportunity to explain to them the power of it, go through even, cover some of the advanced queries, which we can all teach. Those will become very, very important tools for them to manage their own groups. Okay. 3 slides left. Okay, so the next one is build them one campaign. Okay, teach by example. Build them one campaign as part of your customer success commitment and use those terms so they can use it as a guide for moving forward. It is recommended that this is not a shadowed session or, because training begets questions that customers think are often unbillable. Okay, do not set it up, do it on your own. Okay, but make sure that they understand that, you have a certain training rate and you're providing this free of charge. Okay, you can spend 10, 15 minutes doing this, but, if it suddenly becomes a shadowed session and there's questions because they're going to want to take advantage of your time, that 15 minutes becomes an hour and suddenly you're going to regret the engagement. So make sure that you set it up as a sample. Okay, and then the nice thing is that once you set it up, they will either replicate it successfully or they'll come back to you to build other campaigns. Either one is a win for you. One is a better customer experience. The other one creates better revenue, okay? The other thing is reference the videos available because there's lots of videos and I'll be showing those at the end, okay? Then the second last slide is teach them how to read the statistics. Show them how to get into the dashboards. Show them the scoring results, one campaign versus many. Watch for unopens. Create a campaign that's based on just them. Watch for what links that they're clicking on. Okay. Review what the last link is used, and that's shown in the dashboard. All of these are visible in the campaign dashboard results. Run list simulations to help customers understand the impact of suppressions. I cannot tell you how many people that have come to me complaining that AMA is crap. I've got 3,500 emails. I send it out and it's telling me that only 3,000 were sent. Okay. Well, it's not going to show you the suppressions. So if you run the list simulations, you can actually educate people that, what the real deliverability amount should start at, okay, and not the delivery amount plus the suppressions, okay? So they'll be able to better understand the discrepancy between the sends and the delivers, okay? Now, the last thing I want to show you is some of the resources that are on our site, okay? So if you go to AMA, Act eMarketing, you can click on Act Marketing Automation. This is a site we haven't really published a lot or kind of hidden a little bit since the Growth Suite came around, but it still has a lot of useful information. Okay, so the first one is obviously the pricing. You can get a lot of this from act.com as well, but and this is obviously using legacy terms. Okay, but you can get a lot of this information. Again, use this for reference purposes. Do not look at it now, because a lot of them, based on GrowSuite, there's been some adjustments with this, and I'll show you the resources there. But if you go down to the bottom, you can click on any one of these things and be brought to the different sections. Working with templates, drip marketing, working with land pages. Be sure that every single prospect that you have is aware of these resources. There will be some people that don't want to get their hands dirty, but a lot of people want to have some level of autonomy. And Brent Milner has done an excellent job with these things. And once you go here, you can see all the different templates on each one of them. So now you can see drip marketing, assets. Assets are really, really powerful, just reintroduced. Okay, make sure they're aware of that. And then the landing pages, okay? People are going to be very grateful that you introduce them to this, because they'll take them. None of these things are overly long. Okay, all of them are 3 to 5 minutes, but really, really important in terms of a resource, and important for people's first high-level pass-through, so they can understand the program. Okay, I promise you that if they actually engage with these things and they watch these videos, you might be talking about 1 to 2 hours in total. They will finish these videos a lot more excited about the potential of GrowSuite and Act Marketing Automation than when they started. Okay, now the next thing is the actual GrowSuite page. So this is our GrowSuite page, okay, and you can access that just by clicking on GrowSuite here, okay, and you scroll down. Now, some of this stuff is very simple, but there's a reason I want to review it. A lot of the math, a lot of the things that I talked about in terms of the tiers, new pricing models, I've explained in here. Okay, so you can use this as a reference point, the different support packages, the different models, different pricing, everything here. Okay, you can go through and review all of that. Okay. The other thing is, now you're going to see the new pricing tables with the different branding and the savings, okay, that are available till the end of June. Again, the same kind of flip button. You can go through and review all the different features. A lot of this, as I said, is going to be available. We've tried to make it as simple as possible on our site, and you can compare the benefits. Now, where I think that we've done a pretty good job in terms of explaining is the comparison chart, okay? So here is a breakdown tier by tier of all the different features. And this has been updated to reflect the new additions of the marketing calendar, the new positioning of the advanced HTML editor, and the asset tracking. Now, some of these look like they're fairly thin in details, but what's nice is that you can expand any one of these. There was a question about the additional email sends, so you can see additional email sends per month, $15 for every $2,500, or for every 2,500 sends, and then you can see click on and expand any one of these things to get a detailed explanation of what every row is referring to. Okay, all of this content here was harvested from SwiftPage, so feel free to use it. There's very, very little original text that we put in here, so feel free to either source it directly from SwiftPage, source it from the Dropbox, or source it from Act.com or from us. There's obviously a tremendous amount of overlap. I'm the one that publishes a lot of this. I can tell you probably less than 10% that I've written that's original. Okay. Now, I did mention about the free add-on for the multi-search. If you go to our apps and our free Act add-ons, you go down and you expand the Keystroke Welcome Kit, you're going to see all the different features. Okay.
And Ken, we had a response from Michael that says multi-search allows you to search any field specifically. Exponentials add-on is strictly for the email field.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Labs. Okay, so yeah, you can actually use you can multi-search look in a number of different fields. But here is the download for the Keystroke Welcome Kit. If you're worried about branding, there's one checkbox that says the keystroke support. Clear that, and you can install any of the other ones like the user activity deleter, the free email app, append to field, the opdater. I'm not going to go through all of these things, but the SQL Manager is really, really nice, where you can actually go in here, click on help, and stop and start SQL right from within the app. Okay, I find that this helps with a lot of support issues, and there's no branding on it whatsoever. Okay, well, little orange there, but most people aren't going to know what that means. Okay, so that's an additional resource that you've got as that we referenced that you can use free of charge. Okay, now it is 3:15, and I promised everyone a free perk, surprise benefit. I did a lot of training with Andy Wood, and I did a lot of preparations with both him and Ryan in preparing for the material that we covered today. But I told him that I was not going to spend any time on technical training. But I said a lot of people have had a fairly big appetite for such, and Andy has agreed on June 3rd from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock to host a 2-hour webinar on how to deliver some of the technical value-added services that can help increase our support and consulting revenue. Okay, that's exclusive to everyone that participated. We'll be sending out the invitation for that to all people that registered and attended, and you guys are welcome to attend. It's free. We'll be organizing it, but it will be totally hosted by SwiftPage and Andy Wood, and he'll be running it. And there's no catches, no strings, no nothing. This is something that I wanted to make sure that we can round out the training with this.
Yeah, and just to confirm, that's June 3rd from 3 to 5.
June 3rd, Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so that concludes what I wanted to cover in terms of content. So let's open it back up to questions. I did imagine that we would run up to 90 minutes. We're about 18 minutes over the initial 60 minutes, so I can keep going as long as people can.
All right. The other question, will we get a copy of this PowerPoint? Yes, we can make it available, as well as recording. But remember that both the PowerPoint and recording are for certified consultants only, not for public use or distribution.
And I would also say, just don't distribute it at all. Use it as a teaching reference point. Go back to it as often as you like. Do not distribute it. I remember I sent out an email recently that ended up being distributed by a bunch of people to different sources that created additional conversations that I didn't need to have. So just please be a little circumspect with the distribution of this, and just use it for internal purposes.
Yeah. Next question is that the scrub list, you need to take both steps: Sprite Verify and Opt-in Manager.
Yes.
Would that
and in that order. In that order. So you only want to be running the opt-in against verified emails, and then harvesting the opt-ins. Obviously, people that you're getting opt-ins from, then they're going to be the easiest, most reliable deliveries.
Okay, so let me finish the question. Would that be equally true in the U.S. and Canada?
Yes.
Okay, because
it's actually it's not a one side of the border issue at all.
All right, and I'm just reading through some are questions, some are just comments here. No, that's it. We have a couple other questions that we'll take offline because they're longer, very detailed questions. And so the last question is, have you heard how much longer e-marketing will be advertised at Xero for 200?
I believe that they are not advertising that at all. There is no AEM trials, as far as I'm aware, and there is no free trial provisioning anymore. So no more basic tier. Maybe someone out there knows better, but that's what I have heard so far. So be sure to update all your collateral, any of your quotes, any of your any kind of digital presence that you've got talking about AEM, to make sure that they understand the basic freemium version is no longer available. I believe that it was discontinued for all people that signed up after November 18th or something, whenever V21 came out.
All right, and there's Michelle put a link with that as well, so we'll explore that after the webinar.
Michelle's still around? I was sure that after all the PowerPoint, she'd be a goner. So that's fantastic.
Oh, not Michelle Scott, another Michelle.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a bit more sense.
No, Michelle Scott is still here. All right, that's it for the questions. So we will be sending out a link to the webinar as well as the PowerPoint. And then we'll probably send that out Thursday or Friday, and then everybody will have copies of that. And if there's any other questions, feel free to email us, and we'll go from there.
Superb. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. I know it was a little bit more than we initially budgeted, but I appreciate everyone's patience with that, and I hope you guys all appreciated the material that we covered. We've really benefited from it, and the Growth Suite has been very, very successful for us. So we hope that it is for you, and you guys can benefit from some of these tips.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken, and a lot of thank yous in the question area.
Excellent.